Today, we are joined by Gila Melamad. Gila is a solo traveler, storyteller, and published author of the book I Am, a self-healing and self-discovery journey through fear and friendships. Gila's life transformed when she chose not to end it, but to seek freedom instead. She asked for a divorce and embarked on a transformative new life, embracing fear instead of allowing it to stop her. She packed up her life into a car, making it into a mini micro camper, and set off on a dream journey of nomadic living. What started as a quest to feed her adventurous soul quickly became a journey of self-discovery. Gila, welcome to the Deep Life Podcast.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me.
We are just so thrilled to have you on and to dive deep into self-discovery, self-journey, this path that we're all on, where I feel like as humans, we're truly figuring out who we are and what we want in life. And I'd love for you to share kind of what's going through your mind and your body, how you were feeling at this pivotal point in your life. You decided you wanted a divorce, you thought about packing all your things and embarking on this self-discovery journey. What was that like? What was that thought process like for you to get you kind of moving in this direction?
Well, it was like more stages of things. The divorce came as more like a point of my life that I just couldn't take it anymore. It got to a point where I held in my marriage for almost 18 years until my boys grew up, and I felt that the more they got older, the more choked I was becoming. Mm-hmm. And life, just there was two events in my marriage that created strong trauma in myself. And this, I was struggling daily with suicide thoughts. Mm-hmm. For many, many years, I really thought it was chemical balance in my brain. I never connected the dots in my life, and really it was like a Thursday. It was somewhere in it was, I think, the July of 2020. What was it? 2016. And I was getting back from grocery shopping. The road on my in the highway was open, no cars, and I was sinking so deeply that I just, on a 55 mile per hour, I went on 100, and I was about to smash into overhead. And in the last second, I let it go because I promised my therapist I will let her know. And I'm a person of my word, and that took my, and I went to her. And she, she told me, like, she said, she know my story. She knew my struggle. She actually did not know all the story. There was one event that I just kept to myself. I just couldn't share with people, with anyone. And the struggle of trying to stay alive was very, very strong. And I knew that I need to come home and I need to ask for divorce. There is no other way for me. And wow, I'm not kidding. Honestly, in a matter of second, the moment I asked for divorce, the burst of life that entered my body was unbelievable. The smile on my face, weight of years went off myself, and it was like such a relief. So then I realized where really the source of those thoughts. And that was just really the beginning of starting and taking responsibility for my own. For 50 years, I know I was from my parents' house to the marriage, and never on my own. And I built, I knew that the responsibility is on myself to put myself back on my feet. And so slowly I gather, and I created a back life to myself. At this point, my boys are independent, in college, on their own. And one day, like I actually injured my back at one point. And I woke up in September, it was 2020, 2021 probably, and I was crawling out of bed, and I'm 53 in this point. My arthritis was so bad, even though in this point my back is in good condition. I'm like got stronger. It was kind of a blessing, this back injury. It really me brought. And I remember laying on, sitting on my yoga, and I'm like, what I will lose next? So I lost two things with my back injury. I could not do backpacking anymore, and I was a volunteer ambulance driver. I couldn't doing that.
Oh, wow.
And those things that brought a lot of, that was passions of mine. And I decided I'm not going to wait anymore for other things to lose in life. I just finished renovating my apartment, and I thought that, you know what? Think outside the box, let's rent it and go for, and so it took me a year, really. It took me a year to plan. At the beginning, I thought actually I'm getting an RV and I'm traveling this way. Price of gas went up, and my plan came to halt. And one day I was very, it was a very sad moment, but I don't give up easy. So I think that's the things in me. And I had a Mazda CX-5, and usually my 2 seats in the back is low, so I can put my bike, and I went bike riding. And I came back and I take my bike out of my car and I look at the space and I'm like, can lay there? I go and I'm like, wow, this is actually not bad. I did not even went back to my apartment. I pick up the phone and I call Mike, my friend. I say, Mike, any chance you can help me convert my car? He said, yes. I think it took 2 months and I was on the road. So I always wanted to have those kind of a travel. It's just a bug in me, just a passion. It's just like who I am. And I planned the whole year. I had a reservation. Everything was planned, and I went. And I think like the first week, realization came to me that I'm not on a vacation. Especially when suddenly a cold weather came, what I was not expecting yet, and I realized I need to adjust very quickly. If I want to make the best of it, I need to make a big changes in my attitude more than anything. And I did, and I fell in love with it. And after 3 months, I started kind of thinking, okay, can I keep doing it? And I'm like, yes, why not? But can I? Like there was a lot of back and forth, and then I don't do things like just because. I put a lot of thought into things, and after a few months, I spoke with good friends. I spoke, make sure that I can, kind of can afford it financially. I'm on a very low budget. This is not a white woman, rich white woman on the road. Far from it. And I decided to embrace the whole idea. It feel like I've been put on this journey. I did not ask for it whatsoever. Writing was never even close to things that I thought I can even capable of it. And here I am writing and sharing, and very quickly, so many women, because I was posting and sharing on 3 solo women travels. And you my new favorite writer. I'm like, who are you talking about? Things like that, like, you're a born writer. Thank you for sharing the appreciation for a vulnerable writing, the truth as it is, raw and honest, with I write to myself. That's really what it is. I write to myself open, knowing that I write about what we all feel. I am just kind of willing to say it. So I learned through that process that the power of a story, how important every story, there is no one is less or more than other. And most of it, I learned the power of vulnerability, how important it is for us to open ourselves to others, because then you really can create a bridge to all of us. Then we all feel, more connected. And that's really the bottom line. We are all connected.
Yeah.
And, maybe I'm naive, but that's my kind of, my small contribution toward peace.
Oh, I think it's a big contribution for sure. I want to firstly say thank you so much for being and sharing this story and being vulnerable and telling us really what you had gone through, these horrific thoughts of, ending your life, but then to realize, no, wait a second, there is possibly more to that. Before we get into, the power of leaning into uncertainty and being vulnerable and how that's helped the trajectory of you kind of discover who you truly are, let's just back up a little bit, because this was really interesting and stood out to me. When you said that you called your therapist and realized, like, all right, it's time for a divorce, you went to your husband, it's time for us to part ways. You said there was like a life. And as soon as you said that, I got goosebumps. So I feel like we're on the same resonance field here. There's something there. Then you also said something very interesting. You said it was up to me to look at my trauma, what I was going through. And I think that this is so empowering when we can shift that perspective of, life isn't necessarily happening to me, it's happening for me. And possibly everything that you endured and went through was absolutely necessary to bring you to this next stage of your evolution and elevate the areas in your life that you really were tapping into. But with that, healing your trauma, healing our own trauma, how did you go about that? And how would you perhaps give advice for anybody, especially women, but men too, who might be stuck in relationships and not know what to do? What was that unfolding and understanding and healing your trauma like?
Well, I would say it's if I'm looking back at my life, I think I call it a blessing, blessed with a wisdom to understand that blaming is, first of all, not productive. I went my childhood, when I say my first 50 years was a challenge, it's been a challenge since childhood. Unfortunately, I had an abusive father, emotionally and physically. I lost my mom when I was 17. She was really much more my connection, and I kind of lost all of that. Never, felt really belonged to my family. Unfortunately, that was not. And it's so I don't know. It's like it's almost always had the feeling that it's in me to do the work. I have to say, after the divorce, knowing that there was anger. There was no doubt there was anger, because here I am asking for a friendly divorce and I'm not getting it. I don't understand why there is to go. I'm not even going on a fight. I am giving up so much, and there is still a fight. And so there is anger on that level. And I know it does not belong to me. I'm not an angry person. And the only one that's suffering from it is me, myself, no one else. So I do what I really do most of the time. I try to educate myself on my emotion, of how I feel. And a lot of it I found in Brené Brown. There was years that I read her books. I listened to her books, anything that I can get to understand myself. So I realized the more I can get the sense of why I'm feeling the feelings going through me, then I can know what to do with it, with all understanding that it's me. I am the one that's responsible for it. Blaming my dad or blaming my ex, just not going to get me nowhere. It's the trauma. It's the past is past. It's gone. Okay. All I have now is my future, my present, and my future. And what do I do with it? And I actually got to a point. There was two things on the road that happened. I met a beautiful, wonderful soul that put the seed of forgiveness in my head. It's one of my followers that was some Romana that we're still friends. And I met her in Padre Island, and we walk on the beach, two souls never met before, sharing a vulnerable moment in our lives. And she shared her journey with forgiveness. And I remember walking next to her, and I'm thinking, lady, I have no idea what you're talking about. I cannot connect to that. So that was November. In February, I'm in Sedona, stuck in a snowstorm. I had to take a cabin, a very dark cabin, and I feel so stuck in my life. I'm listening to books, I'm trying everything, but it's nowhere. I am still trapped in my own agony. And I said, okay, what is forgiveness. I have time on my head. I have reception, podcast, TED Talk, anything I can get a hand to understand what is forgiveness. Well, of course, I saw it wrongly. And I got to a moment, and it honestly, it took me 2 weeks only to get to that realization, working very much with myself. And the thing is, like, also, I am so honest with myself. There is no hiding. Whatever is there have to be there. If I want to heal, I need to be honest. And I realized that not my husband, not my ex, and not my father ever wanted to hurt me. That was not their intention. Their action came from a place of their own hurt. And today I have full compassion toward both of them. I don't want nothing to do with them. And my dad passed away last December, and I'm so happy for myself that I got to the realization of compassion before he passed away. I cannot even imagine the grief. And the grief was interesting, as his own the grief was interesting afterward. And that process, as I went with that. So here again, I thought that I actually buried the father that I always wanted many years ago. And here I am. And it hit me, and I'm like, okay, I want one good memory. Give me one good memory, and I don't have. And I decided that I still need to honor him, and I still need to give him all the love I can. And my son actually told me, Mom, why don't you write him a letter? And I decided that I'm actually going to write him 4 letters. One from the little girl, one from the 18 years old, because 18 was the time that I finally stood up and stopped him, hitting me. I still cannot still today that I let it go so many years. The woman in her 40s, when, I realized I cannot teach my boys. No one have the right to, talk wrongly to them when I'm showing them the wrong example. And from the woman I am today, with compassion and love for him. And that was a extremely healing process. And all of that, I needed to be on the road by myself. There was no way I can do it here in a process. I needed nature to hug me, to give me that rawness with myself. Again, it's all because I chose to take the responsibility on myself.
Oh my God. I think I'm holding back tears right now. Gila, thank you for sharing that. That sounds like such a profound and revelatory, simultaneously like releasing exercise that was required of you and your growth. And again, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing how difficult that childhood was, because yes, of course, as we age and grow, we tend to look like adults, but our inner children are still present and very present, and they're the ones that do hold the most trauma. But what a beautiful way that now you can show up for your inner child and parent her the way that she so desperately needed when you really were young. So thank you for sharing that and all that you went through.
Yeah, so it's also, I just like listening to your story is so beautiful. I love the way that like things just kind of seem to come together when you can look from the bigger picture, and it's like, your friend plants these seeds, and that idea of forgiveness was just in there until you were ready to receive it. But then when you were, it blossomed into something so beautiful and empowering.
Yeah. This is why I'm telling you, like, life has been happening to me the last 2 years. The people that I met through my journey, because in so many ways, I lost the trust through my marriage in people.
Yes.
And I gained it in so much the last 2 years. People are kind. People are beautiful. And I am blessed. I am very, very blessed for that. And I think more and more, I starting to understand, and I always kind of said, like, the most difficult lessons, let's say there's like the most painful experience are the most beautiful lessons that we can receive if we are willing to be open for those lessons. Resilience comes from willing to let that experience give us the tool to growth. I want to make sure that my last breath on this planet, I can close my eyes and know that I did everything in my power for myself to have a good life. I have one chance. Why would I want to make it right?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's almost the way that you're describing it. And I don't want to speak for Dan, but I feel like we're very similar in we're on this path. I have no idea what the next step really is. I don't. When we talked about uncertainty off camera, and I know that we're going to start in a minute here, but it was almost as though the way that I'm hearing it and observing, and again, this is just my opinion, when you asked for that divorce, something within life, the universe, God, creator, whatever you want to use, opened you up. And
Yes.
it is like you were almost co-collaborating at that point, like, okay, here I go. I'm moving towards the light. My dark phase is over. And now
Yes.
it's almost like life presenting you with options to change. And it's just coming into your reality because you're almost manifesting it because you're on that wavelength.
No, I was in so many ways. I was dead in my life. I was on auto mode. It was like it was totally like, but the thing is like, like only now I could see it. Only when I asked for the divorce and that burst of life came, could I see how those years were so difficult and I was so trapped. It was sometimes you cannot see things unless you're on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
I was walking on the street and my friends that didn't see me for a long time, like, oh, Gila, you look, you're glowing. I was like, yes, I say, I'm getting divorced. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, no, I'm not, Today, people ask me, what is that? I say, I'm happily divorced. And it's like, oh, they love it. So it's like, but it's not that listen, I think relationship is beautiful. Marriage is a beautiful thing if you have two people that know how to respect it. Unfortunately, it did not happen to me. There was two events that really create a strong trauma in me. And I did not choose it. I know it is what it is, right? I really, with all my heart, I wish my ex a good life. I wish him all the best.
That's beautiful.
No, truly, I am not, there was time that I felt like I couldn't hate him more than what I had. And it just did not sit well with me at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say that when you said that you had compassion for him and your father, I mean, what a big statement that is, and beautiful in itself. Sorry.
Well, I just want to make sure before we move on, I want to lean into forgiveness a little bit deeper because you had mentioned you were thinking about it all wrong.
Yes.
So I want to make it like pull back to that and like, what did you realize about forgiveness? Because I think this is something that will be really helpful for people.
Well, and I think most people think I need to forgive him for what he did. And like, how could I? But I cannot forget what happened. Okay, that's unfortunately that's grain in me, and here and there, in one point actually there was a situation that brought it up, and I was very shocked. But again, I will need to do the healing part to take that away from me. And that's the thing, like so it's not about forgetting what happened. It's forgiving the action that the person did to you, understanding that really I mean there is a situation that unfortunately it's hard to forgive. There is just too much to it, okay? And everyone have their own journey with it. This is not for me to tell one person, oh, you have to forgive it no matter what happened. You have to. That's everyone have their own journey with it. But the moment I understood really that this is not coming from a point of hurting me, that released so much for me. I am the one that now, like, free to feel other feelings. It was numbing me in so many ways that I like took away from me. Again, I am the one that creating that prison on my own by not forgiving. And I don't want it.
Yeah. It's also like by forgiving, you're just releasing your story about the event, not letting go of what happened essentially, but how you relate to it.
And it get to a point, and I hope it will get that it will be a very little dot in my life that it will not really make a any different. But yeah, so forgiveness is actually a beautiful, beautiful thing if you can embrace it and give it to yourself.
Absolutely. And allow yourself the grace to take the time that's necessary to understand what that forgiveness means for yourself, as you so beautifully explained that, yeah, we don't have to figure it out in this one moment. It could be weeks. It could even be a year after something very traumatic that happens.
Yes.
So beautiful.
Yes. I was surprised that it took me that short of a time. But I'm very determined usually.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to lean into next. It's determination. But you said, and you expressed this, that there was fear, and fear, uncertainty. I mean, the nature of life really is uncertain. So much has unfolded within my life, within Dan's life, especially over the past few years, that I couldn't have even imagined. And like, I'm asking to gain knowledge, to gain wisdom on the spiritual journey. And then it's like, okay, are you ready? You're slapped in the head with like a 2x4, and you're like, and you do, it's really scary. Fear is something that can be detrimental, but it can also, on the flip side, be beautiful, because it maybe perhaps gets you off your behind to move in a direction that your heart is calling you for. So what was the role of fear for you? What is the role of uncertainty for you? And do you tend to stray away from it or kind of lean into it? Or what's your relationship to that uncertainty?
Oh, there's a dance there for sure.
Yeah.
I named, so now I'm starting chapter number 3. And I called it My Dance with the Universe. It's like, yes, fear is actually, I found out it's a very personal, very, very personal emotion for each of us. Each of us have a different level. Yes, I maybe have a little bit more than that than the usual, but still it's grabbing me. I'm talking to you. As we started, I told you, just so you know, you're getting me in a day where fear is gripping me like in my stomach, like whoo. Only when I started to the idea of going, a panic attack actually was, I think that's what panic attack will be. And I don't know what it is, but I'm not willing to let fear hold me back. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I think I'm really not sure, the source of it. I can tell you, all I'm looking to do in life, simply in the end of the things, is to get that little cabin somewhere in the wood where I can feel connected to nature and be part of a small community. That's all, really. I mean, the simple kind of idea. I guarantee you that sitting on my sofa will not get me there. Okay? So I'm folding my life now. My apartment is for sale. I am like really closing everything, selling everything. I donated 95% of my belonging. I will say I have 12 boxes to my name.
Wow.
The last 2 years I lived with so little, and I'm the happiest I could be. Materialist stuff never was things in my life, but it's definitely lost any value. I have very few things that I'm keeping, just, so I can put it back in my little tiny home when time is ready to remind me those time of challenges. So it is part of life, the uncertainty. We don't know. Right now I'm in a part of life that I'm actually choosing it. So it's like sometimes like, are you crazy? I'm applying for seasonal jobs. I'm still, don't have something firm. I realized that selling here, I'm going to work with a very, very low budget, even more than before. So I need to adjust. I need to adjust myself. I figure out traveling in the winter after 2 years, realizing the days are short. There is no warm state anymore. I need to adjust how I do things. Figure out if I'll take a seasonal job that provide me as much as possible room and board. That means I don't touch my money. I can maybe save, and then 6 months I travel. So it's like I learned from all of that first of all, being able to be adaptable and flexible is very, very important to that process of dealing with fear and uncertainty. You have to know, I know I am aware that I have ahead of me a year or two of struggle, because I'm embracing into embarking into a new industry, hospitality. Never been. I'm a home designer. I'm a color designer. I'm an artist. You know, I'm shining in customer service. Yes, but you know, it's like you look at my resume, like what a woman in her mid-50s doing, where looking for these kind of jobs. But today it doesn't matter to me what I do, is where I am and the people around me.
Mm.
So fear, oof, strong. It's probably taking a few years of my life, but I refuse to give up. I refuse to give up. I mean, I remind myself that in overnight I can find a job and my house can be sold. So things can change. And if not, I will hold as much as I can, whatever I need to do to make it happen.
Absolutely. I feel there's so much wisdom that you shared there. And I feel like as you began talking about fear, one of the things that jumped out with me that I feel we almost gloss over at times, fear shows up differently for each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so you're right. Yes, something that I could be very fearful of.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to Dan, you know, he's obviously much bigger than me. It's different mentality, more massive. That's so interesting, and I'm very grateful that you pointed that out. And because we try in our society, or at least this, again, is my opinion, is to do things that really make us comfortable and avoid uncertainty and fear at all levels. And I agree, because it is a treacherous feeling when you are in that.
It's draining.
It is, yes, it's energetically, emotionally, physically draining. But we also have to remember for a second that we're human. And part of being human is sentience. We are meant to feel things. And possibly we're meant to feel this fear to fuel something within it and transform or transmute that energy into a higher purpose or a higher level of consciousness. I don't think we're made to stay in fear or fearful relationships, fearful jobs, fearful, locations. It's I think the universe saying like, hey, this doesn't feel comfortable, this doesn't feel good. Let's maybe lean into that a little bit more so that we can see what feels better for you.
Yes. And then and I agree with you. And I think like I somehow willing to push that envelope in me. You know, I have to tell you my journey in as an ambulance driver, talking about fear. People think that doing this, I'm outside of my comfort zone. Being an ambulance driver was beyond anything that I really, it's like driving, be responsible for everyone around, people around me, driving fast and soft, doing all this. I mean, there was so many multitasking into doing something with so much responsibility was huge. I mean, like after 2 years of like being so, really every time it was a lot of anxiety into it. And I came like, people say, oh, it will slow down. You'll see with experience. And 2 years into it and nothing. And I said like, okay, or I'm quitting or I'm changing things. And I was not ready to quit. Every Monday from 9 to 2, I was putting my uniform and being so proud to do what I'm doing. It's a beautiful gift to be able to know that you make a difference in someone else's life. And I decided I'm not quitting. I am just changing the way I am approaching the call. That's all I'm doing. I'm going to break it to small steps, and that's what it will be. I became a better driver, a better, EMT helper. I really, everything improved. Even my commander came and it's like, wow, Gila, what happened? And I said, you know what? I decided, or I'm quitting or I'm changing, and I'm changing. And so, so it's again on me, my responsibility to make the difference and to make the change. Now, here's a funny story about fear. I'm in Badland National Park and I'm hiking, hot day. I'm by myself, no one there. And I get to a trail and there is a very thin path with overgrown grass. Sign all over, be careful of rattlesnake, be aware of rattlesnake. I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the things I'm really afraid. And I'm like, oh, you know what? But it's silent. And I'm like, well, if I'm going and with such a silence, I will be able to hear it. So let me pass this grass. It will be okay. I'll continue enjoying the silence, and I'm released from the idea of the rattlesnake. Two, young men coming toward me, and we kind of say hello, and I say, isn't it the silence is so beautiful? And the guy is telling me oh my God, I'm so afraid of silence. I say, yeah, but then you can listen to the rattlesnake. Oh, I'm more afraid of a rattlesnake. Thank you. So he was you can see his smile. Suddenly, just the change of perspective of how he can handle his fear and look at it from a different angle made it was so funny. It was hilarious, actually. We all of us laugh, it was just funny.
I love it. I love that story. I feel like it's so relatable and so simple and like poetic and innocent. I think that's great. And the way that I'm hearing you and what you're describing is something that Dan and I talk a lot about the podcast. It is a bold statement.
Okay.
We're not victims to life. We're victims to our perspective of life.
I love that. Yes.
Because it's the perspective. You're beautifully sharing it all, literally, Gila, everything that you're saying. You have, I don't know if you notice it or not. Maybe it's just me because I can hear you and I'm observing you. You shifted your mindset in every scenario, from your childhood to your marriage to this, like everything has brought you to that point. Well, I could think of it this way, but I thought of it in this way, and this is where it led me. And it's just like, once you shifted your mindset, it's opened doors. And I think that that's really powerful to understand. We are victims of the stories, the narratives, the perspective that we have. But that's okay. It's okay, because if we're victim to it, we can also be the victor. We're creating these stories in our relationship to it. So what do you want to tell yourself? What perspective do you want to have maybe moving forward?
Yes. And I'm waiting for that aha moment, and I share with you in a second, as I did like a month and a half into my travel, to have like a different shift in my perspective. So I will have less anxiety when it comes to embracing the uncertainty. So I'm traveling and I'm getting closer to Galveston, Texas. And it's almost like a little bit over a month that I'm traveling, and I'm still have the edge of like traveling to places like I'd never been there, right? I don't know what's going on. And to a lot of traffic, and and I'm enjoying, and I love driving, but there is an edge to it. And then somehow it just clicked on me. I cannot get lost. I don't know where I am to start with.
Yeah.
How can, from that moment, I'm not kidding, from that moment, now when I travel, there is excitement. There is what is behind that bend, what I will see. And, there is gone the fear, gone that there is only like, just like the wonder of excitement. And I want to find that with the big picture of life. Like, how can I bring that? So now that I'm embracing the really uncertainty and I'm putting myself in such a path, well, how can I find that humor to bring me to see things in a lighter way?
That's such a beautiful analogy for life in general. I think so much of our fears and our anxiety and our disappointment is because we think we're supposed to be somewhere other than we are. And when you're just driving, when you don't really have a destination, because our destination in the stories in our head is made up anyway. We think we're going to get to a certain point, but it's all uncertainty, like you said. So we're always just exactly where we are, and we can just enjoy that moment and look around and see the crazy roadside attractions and the small little towns and all the things that you see along the road.
I let myself be more open to things this way.
Yes, yeah. Gosh, it's so refreshing, your outlook on life, and you share some very similar philosophies and the ways that we think too, but it's always nice to have this. Okay, I want to jump into your writing, because this is such a big part of your life, and you started describing like beginning to write on, blogs, and you're writing for yourself, but then you're also sharing it and you're understanding that women are going through these same things. And they're saying like, thank you for being this voice. Thank you for being vulnerable, for sharing your story. How did kind of this all come about? Like, when did you start writing? And then how did that lead you into writing an entire book?
All right. So this is really like the weirdest things that probably ever happened to me. So when I start telling my friend that I'm leaving, my friends start ask me to blog so they can follow my story, so they can see what's going on in that. And I'm looking at them like, you asking me to do the impossible. English is not my first language. I have learning disability. I'm dyslexic. You're really asking me, the wrong person to do it. I mean, like I just, but the more they ask, and I have to say, only after I listened to the book, Conversation with God, did I understood what really was happening. And because until then, I just didn't say it aloud. There was a voice. There was absolutely outside voice that forced me to write, forced me to share. If you know before, I'm a very private person. This is not something I was even thinking of doing. But the more I tried to ignore it, the voice outside of me got louder and louder. It's really felt like I've been pushing the first button to submit my first blog was someone came and took. I know it sounds like
It doesn't sound crazy to
but
us.
it's exactly what it felt, and it took a long time to start feeling comfortable with it. But I don't know how to explain to you. So first of all, my process is like that. I go and I talk to my phone. I express my feeling to my phone. I open the app note, and I express all my feeling and everything that in me. This is why you'll hear a lot of women say that I feel like I'm hiking with you. Because I can express everything I do. I see. And then I have a Grammarly app that I pay for, and that helped me clean my writing. Today, my second editor is actually AI, and my third editor is my dear friend Eva Marie. So I have editors to help because I like to do it right, but I need to write it raw, and I need to have it first, me writing it. I read my own stuff, and I feel like someone else. I cannot explain to you. I call it a treasure box that I found inside myself. I don't know where it's coming. It's my son, call it. He said like it's like nature right through her.
Yes,
absolutely.
it's literally what I was thinking. Yeah, it's just whatever you want to call it, right? Like life, nature, the creator. It's that energetic source that almost when we get out of our own way, meaning like our ego, it's just flowing through you. It's like beautiful.
Yeah, and I tell you regarding ego, the moment I asked the divorce, I also decided that I'm letting go of my ego, and moving forward without it, and it's opened me to much more creativity.
Yeah,
And that could be one of the result. So I am an artist. So I think more and more, I'm like, the more I let those walls that I wrap myself as a protection, the more I let them go, the more creative I become.
Yes, that's beautiful. So would you say that the more vulnerable you were, the more you were able to creatively express?
No, I think the more I started to feel belong to myself.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That is the more, the vulnerability. I think if you ask my friend, they will tell you that that's who I am. Okay.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. There was always like that.
Yeah. And there's power in that too. Like, well, what would you say is that power of the vulnerability for yourself and for others?
That is willing. A lot of people tell me like, you're brave being on the road. Vulnerability is bravery. That is bravery. But I know that by doing that, I'm contributing maybe a little bit for someone else to be in the path of their own healing, even one. So, I mentioned to you too, there was one post that it's called I Chose Life. And it was the end of the first year. And because there was like so many times I've been in an amazing landscape, and I said, like, I need to pinch myself, because if I chose to commit suicide, I will never be able to witness these beautiful things. The people, watching my boys grow. I mean, I will lose everything. This is, and I know that I have a responsibility for the women that are following me to really share, the bottom of, and then the darkness of my life. And it's, and it took a lot. It took a lot of me to share that. But the response of the support, of the appreciation of doing that gave me the courage to continue and to go deeper and know that, I'm making a difference. I actually went on a call with one of the women, and she said, Gila, you just saved my life. And I was
Oh,
like,
no.
yes. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
And there was only one time in my service as an ambulance driver that my boss was asking me. I was driving during my work, and every time I went for a call, if there was, I had to work longer. I'm so appreciative for my boss to let me to do that. And only one time he asked me to cut my shift, 1 hour before, and I kept the radio on. 2:15 came a call for attempt suicide. And I knew it was not attempt. And someone was definitely protecting me from that call. It was someone as a daughter of a friend. And I was,
Oh my gosh.
I don't think that I would be able to emotionally recover from it. So it was not my thing to be. But all I always thought, like, wow, if I wrote that before, if she can read my post before, maybe I would be able to save her. And I knew that I have responsibility to share that part of me, because it's not all about the beautiful things I see. There are those beautiful things that I see is a result of not willing to let, the darkness in my life take over my life.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wow. That was very touching. Gosh, isn't it crazy how the universe and life works in situations like that? It's almost as though there's a level of trust that's built in situations like that. Where like, wow, so like you're saying, someone had my back. Yeah, you can't explain it, you can't do it. Like, but yes, it's like, yeah, it's life showing you, like, I've got you if you trust me enough. I will not put you in circumstances that you cannot handle or that are not fit for you.
Yes. I have to say, I'm really on a beautiful, amazing spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I'm not religious, but there is, but God was always kind of like my parents, if you want to say it, as a young. I born in Israel, but so you cannot really escape the religious part in a sense, just because, like, you 3 times a week you learn Bible and things like that. But the religious I did not grow up in a religious family at all. But there was always a sense of that, the beauty of God. And today for me, God is the universe. There is a beauty for it. I'm embracing it more. For me today, my religious is kindness. That's my action. It's not, if you go back, unfortunately, we created religious. That's not how we're supposed to enjoy the beauty of the universe. But as long as you do, I always say it, if you want to believe in a rock, go ahead. I will respect that rock. Just please don't pick it up and throw it at me, right?
Yeah.
So we all could believe whatever we wish to believe. Let's just bring all kindness and wonderful for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. I think we share similar philosophies that we are on this spiritual journey. We both grew up in very religious homes. And again, nothing to knock that. Like exactly,
No.
Phrase and things like for ourselves, we found it very, very limiting. And we couldn't like I said, this podcast is all about discovering who we truly are. And with the religion, it was just you fit into a box and that's it. And it was like, but I want to go outside of the box. So I feel like what you're saying is so beautifully describing how we can figure out who we are and how we can tap into the vulnerable aspects of ourselves, leaning into the uncertainty, leaning into understanding our own trauma and how to heal that. And when I say trauma, I mean, as you know, like you've been through very, very severe traumas that I'm sure took a lot to unpack. But even something as traumatic as just having a parent that was emotionally unavailable or something like that, that is trauma that we hold on to in so many cases. So I don't think that there's one of us who didn't experience some degree of trauma.
Trauma is part of life, and again, it's like fear. You cannot even compare one person trauma to another. It could be just like, again, a silly thing for you, but it's the everything for the other person. So no, trauma is just part of life. You cannot live a life without a trauma. It's just like what we do with it, right? If we take that trauma and reflect it on others, then it's like it's a cycle that we all being hurt by. If we take that trauma and we know, okay, it happened, what I do, how I get past that, then there is opportunity for, more love in your life, more love to come in and more love to come out. And, again, my naive way, but please, this is the path to peace.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Gila, this has been wonderful. Okay, I know we're wrapping up here, but I do want to dive into your book a little deeper before we go. And I know that you had provided us with all of links for your Substack and where to find you, your website, which we will put into the show notes. But the book is really interesting, and I am such a fan of the title because at the beginning, you have it like I am in capital letters with an exclamation point. And I want to ask you, what does that mean to you? What does that signify? The I am is such it's talked about a lot here within our spiritual work and community and things like that. So I want to better understand what that means for you, the I am.
So only through the first years of my journey, it took a while that I start understanding what people say when they say they love themselves. I never had that. I never had that true belonging to myself. And here I am, and embracing my journey through courage and fear, and giving myself the tools. And I know that it's up to me to empower myself to find that I am in me. And I found it. I am who I am. I am proud of it. I'm loving it. It's belonged to me. And that's the I am there.
So besides the beautiful title, what is your book about?
Well, it's really a memoir of almost a day by day of my journey on the road. A lot of my triumph and my struggles, the change of perspective as I was going. You can see the growth of my soul. You see the healing part. The healing part was a huge, you can really see it in stage, my struggle with it and my solution with it, and taking whatever come my way, if it through people or my own educating myself through that process. And it's and a lot of, and honestly, you really see the growth of my writing in a sense that you and remember, I never wrote before, right? This is not something that I even used to do. It's all new to me. And you can see my creativity grow, my confidence come. I think that part is very interesting to be witness as you read it. Still, I'm stunned by it. I still cannot believe that I wrote a book and I'm a publisher. It's like, I don't think I ever will. But so that's really the book. Is like, I'm taking you, as a lot of women say, I feel like I'm hiking with you. I'm really taking you along with me, almost step by step.
Yeah, that seems like such a beautiful journey that you're able to share. It's almost like the unraveling of who you used to be and then coming into, almost spreading your butterfly wings into, this next, no pun intended, chapter of your life that you so beautifully laid out in the book. I know that we're obviously through phones here, having this conversation. I love technology in that sense, but the grounded, just compassionate, loving energy that's emanating from you, Gila. It is really palpable. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing and one of the legacies that you'll leave. It's your energetic signature, like touching the people's lives around you, whether they come into physical contact or if it's through podcasts and your writings and your books. Like, you certainly seem to have so much to offer. And I am grateful for that. And I'm really grateful that the universe has given us this opportunity for our paths to cross. So thank you again for joining us today. But before we have you sign off, I mean, we covered so much, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your stories and being vulnerable. But did we miss anything that you feel you'd like to share with our audience before we part ways here? If so, please do so.
Well, I do want to put somewhere into the universe, and kind of more a combination of my little dream of the little cabin in the woods with a small community and with a vision that I had on the road as I started. I belong to one of the Facebook is solo women travel in the cars and SUVs. And some of the stories are coming from women that are forced to be there. They are running from abusing a relationship. They are lost their job. They just finding themselves in a part in their life that are struggling to get on the feet. And I was like thinking, wow, I'm actually choosing to do that. And it's not easy. I cannot even imagine how it would be when you are forced to live this kind of life. And I don't know how it came to me, because to us today, I can tell you there is no way in the past I could even see myself as a leader. And here I am, want to create a nonprofit organization that will support women to help them put themselves back on their feet. If anything I learned from this experience, that no one can do that for you. You have to do it yourself. But it's great if you can have a support and the tools to have someone to help you with that journey in your life. So the idea is like really to create a campground that will have to let women come. So it's like will be a campground. There will be a community. There will be a shared dining room. And so that will be the center of the campground. And women can come with their RV, with a trailer, with their tent, with their cars, and have that will be like how, how we actually will support that nonprofit organization, right? We'll have classes of empowerment, because the only way that you can empower yourself is by doing, by experience, on your own. So many women say, like, I cannot go hike by myself. So even have the silly idea that I have is like create in the woods to create a path that will be, fenced in. So to give them that feel, so the moment they will have do that by themselves, even though it's fenced and give them the security, that will be one way to get them to the next step. The next step, okay, take a similar path without the fence. This is how you do it. You push yourself one step at a time and see, wow, that experience I passed, that was a success. Good. Now let's do the second one. And it's a small, steps forward. Creativity is a huge part of us in our growth. To have ceramic studio or woodworking shop, women come build your own, minivan, your own, camper. To have like, it will be a retreat. If someone want to come and bring their talent and be creative, retreat, yoga, meditation, anything that will educate women about the emotions and feeling, and start, spreading the idea and that the one way to get, to a place where you can empower yourself is by opening yourself to especially today, to the information about emotion and feelings. So to create that kind of a center, and there will be also and I know it's a big vision. It's all in my head. I see it clear. So this is where my little dream come in, that the women that will come and be part of it. This is not it's we, it's us. That come and work and be part of this organization will have their tiny home as a community. And that, that will be, but it have to have also one big fancy cabin to my dear friends that cannot understand me, support me, but cannot understand what I do in nature, to just put them and show them what nature can do to our soul. So
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that vision. And none is too big. I think that that's amazing. And if it's a vision, it's already out there in the universe. It's just now connecting to the energies to bring in alignment what people, places that are going to help you create this beautiful, safe space for women.
yes, and
Feel
I think
empowered.
my biggest challenge is location.
Sure.
So if there is anyone out there that have a, property that they will like you to align with, that think that align with my vision and would like to come in, and that's really my biggest challenge is location.
Absolutely. How big would you like see it? I'm not.
No, I don't want it too big.
Okay. Okay.
I think,
Like
it's need to
intimate?
be, but the thing is like, it's need to be small enough, but big enough to help women.
Sure. Sure.
And sometimes you don't need, not all women need to be physically in the center to be able to get the support, right? They can be anywhere else. So if it's support, like to help them a little bit financially or anything, like that. Yeah, I don't know. I actually believe in a smaller communities. I think there is much more, you actually, even smaller, they're mighty, they're much more stronger with
Absolutely.
each other.
Yeah, and small can grow. When you start small, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's understanding the inner workings of how much space you do need, how much women feel comfortable around. Some women perhaps maybe only want to be around, 10, 15 other people as opposed to 100. So I think
Right.
small growth is, almost a beautiful place to start.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's start first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. See, the vision's got to be there because I already feel it in my heart. So I think it's coming to fruition already. It starts with the idea. So,
but I say I feel like I'm still earning my wings. So I'm not there yet. I'm still need to earn my own experience, to be able to fully support others. I feel like I need to go through more growth and more, challenges and overcome more to be able to then be more in a compassion place.
sure.
So
That's life. It's always presenting us with opportunities to learn and grow. And even when you probably get to that point, it's going to give you additional ones to be even more kinder, loving, and compassionate. That's beautiful, because I don't want you to dim your light anymore. You have, gosh, I feel like I don't know you too personally, but from the conversations we've had, it seems like you've grown immensely and have a beautiful perspective that you are able to share now. And that's imperative for people, especially women who are struggling, who are in trauma situations, that can really benefit from that. So we thank you for sharing your light.
Thank you. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure having, talking with both of you, and you both creating a comfortable space for me to share. So thank you.